Hello, everyone, and welcome to Heads Up, the weekly webcast and podcast of the National Headache Foundation. I'm Dr. Lindsay Weitzel, migraine strategist, founder of the Facebook group Migraine Nation, and chronic daily migraine survivor. I'm super excited about our topic today. Today, we're going to talk about a program called Migraine at School. And we have two people from Migraine at School here today. We have Amy Graham and Elizabeth Henry Weyher. Hello to both of you. Thank you for being here.
Lindsay, thank you. We're so excited to be here today.
So they are going to talk to us today. They're going to tell us what the program is about and how you might be able to implement it in your community. And this program is very close to my heart because I was a child that had chronic migraine. My son has been diagnosed with chronic migraine. So I'm hoping everyone will listen up. Even if you don't have a child that has migraine, you probably know someone who does, or you might be associated with the school in your community. So let's get started. First of all, can you please tell us what the goal of the Migraine at School program is?
Sure, I'm happy to, Lindsay. The goal of the Migraine at School program is to ensure that children with migraine disease have the best opportunity to flourish in school. Now, we attack this issue twofold. Dr. Amy Gelfand has said that the brain learns from its own behavior. By treating early, we can change the trajectory of the disease. So first, Migraine at School seeks to identify children who are having migraine symptoms. And then second, we also look to, once they have been diagnosed with migraine, how can we make their school experience better? How can we all work together as parents, students, teachers to help these children accomplish things in school? We believe that Migraine at School can alter the trajectory of children with migraine disease. It can make a difference in that individual student. It can also make a difference in the community as a whole by combating the stigma associated with migraine.
Right. So you can not only educate the child who has migraine, but you can educate the world around them to understand them better, which I think is a remarkable thing. Can you tell us so that anyone who isn't driving while they listen can perhaps go to the website while we're talking so that they can look at the information? What is the website for this program?
Sure. The website is migraineatschool.org. And it is the central hub of our program. It is geared towards 3 different audiences currently. There is an area for students, for parents, and educators. And each different part has resources that specifically apply to that audience.
Okay. So I always like to ask people when I have them on the webcast, what motivates them to work in this environment, to work in the world of migraine. So what motivates you to do this program and to bring this program out to help kids in our country?
Sure. Well, I'll speak to that first. On the sort of like macro level, for me, it's ultimately just about the kids and making sure that we sort of even that playing field, that kids with migraine have the same chance, equal chance to get the education that they deserve as the kiddos that don't have migraine.
Right.
And then when you bring it down to a personal level, I personally have migraine. Both of my children have migraine. I have a niece that has chronic pain, and watching their journey, watching them work their way through school and the difference it makes to get the help and the accommodations that they need so that they don't feel like an outsider, or they're able to get the work done that they want to get done and learn. They want to actually, have success when they're in school. And it's almost impossible to do if you don't have a little bit of help if you're dealing with some sort of pain.
Exactly. Did you want to tell us about your motivation, Elizabeth?
Sure, I can speak briefly to that. My primary motivation in everything that I do within our community is my sister Danielle, who battled chronic migraine beginning at the age of 8 until her death by suicide at the age of 17. And I certainly experienced through her eyes what migraine can do to a child and to an adolescent during school. And she would say, my teachers don't believe me. she'd be on certain medications that would make her walk unevenly. Kids would tease her or say, you know, are you intoxicated? And
Right.
it was the medications. Not many people did understand.
Right.
And I am so hopeful that the information in this program and us just talking about it, we can remove that stigma for kids like her.
Right. I fully understand that. And I stand behind everything you just said. And it brought up a memory that I haven't thought of in years, where I always have not spoken well with my migraines. It alters my speech patterns. And people would accuse me of having taken a narcotic or something that would make it so I couldn't talk. And it was really just a migraine symptom. And so it is important that we teach people to understand migraine and to understand people with migraine. And so thank you so much for sharing that, Elizabeth. So let's move into how many kids are affected by migraine so that we know the impact that this program can have.
Sure, Lindsay. 1 in 10 children has migraine disease and up to 28% of adolescents. However, we also know that up to 40% of the population with migraine is undiagnosed. And I suspect that number may even be higher in children, because quite often migraine presents differently in children. They can present with abdominal pain or cyclical vomiting quite often. That's the way that my sister's migraine disease started. Right. And quite often it's misdiagnosed. So I suspect that it's actually higher than 1 in 10 children.
Right. One of the coolest things to me about the Migraine at School program are the infographics that can be hung, for example, in the school nurse's office, which I think is so important, because if a kid is regularly going to the school nurse with headache but doesn't really understand they have migraine, that can be such a great point of education and point to reach out and help them get the help they need. So what can you talk to us about the infographics, how people can get them, what they say? I cheated and I actually have one right here.
I love that you have one. I love that you have it.
I think it's great. I think it's really informative. And I think that it's simple enough. My son's 8, and obviously an 8-year-old can read, but even like the word anxiety, et cetera, he saw the infographic and he understood what it said. Had he walked into a nurse's office, he would have read this.
Right. I mean, the most basic of the infographics is just the poster. And the poster just has the symptoms on it, and it's meant to be hung, like you said, like in a nurse's office or that front office in the school. So that, you know, it's very simple, like, you know, basically like you might have migraine and there are the symptoms listed. So, and again, colorful, it's meant to grab your eye. You know, I'm thinking of a kid sitting in the office board and their eye, they sort of like, are drawn over and easily able to identify like, oh, like I have some of those things, I might have migraine.
Right.
Then a little bit more informative is that we have then 3 separate infographics for our 3 main audiences. We have an infographic for our students, which much like the poster lists the symptoms so that they can look and they can identify like maybe or maybe they don't. Then it goes on to give them some tips about lifestyle changes that they may be able to make that can help manage their migraine, and gives them some information on how to speak up and advocate for themselves, which is really important. You have a voice, you have power. There are laws that actually are put in place to help you, and you do have options out there. Right. Then we have the parent infographic, which helps parents understand a little bit more about migraine, taking migraine seriously, information on accommodations, what accommodations may be available to you. And I will say to any parent out there listening, if you're looking at this infographic and you see that list of accommodations and you realize that there's something that's missing from that list that you know that your child needs, add it.
We're going to put this across the screen.
Just use the only things on our list, like anything you think your kiddo needs, you need to ask for. Also,
can I interrupt you, Amy? We're going to put this on the screen, but this list, because people won't be able to see it with me holding it, it's also on the migraineatschool.org
It is
website,
absolutely.
correct?
Yeah. Okay. Under the parent page All of the
Okay.
infographics are available on each of the audience pages. So if you're a parent and you go to the parent tab, there is a parent infographic there where you can get a list. And it's a great place to start. Again, like the accommodation may already be listed that you need, but if there's something missing, don't be afraid to ask for what you need for your kid.
Right. Okay.
Then there's the educator infographic, which much like the student infographic sort of lists the symptoms. It's helping someone that works at the school identify like their student may have migraine. It may not just be a headache.
Right.
And then some helpful tips on how to accommodate and help your students with migraine. What are things that you can do in the school, in the classroom to make their life a little bit easier? So those are the 3 infographics.
Right. Okay. I love them. I think they're important. I think that even if a nurse maybe doesn't fully hadn't thought of the fact that a child that appears often with headache could have migraine, if this is in the nurse's office, it's going to occur to her to bring it up to the parent.
Exactly.
So I think that these are very helpful. And I'm so glad that they're here. It's my understanding that you've also arranged for a migraine screening tool to be utilized in certain schools as part of this program. Can you talk to us about that for a second?
Yes, I'd be happy to, Lindsay. The Cincinnati Children's Hospital has a pediatric adolescent migraine screen that called PAMS that they use. It lists 3 simple questions for children to review and or a nurse to review with the child.
Okay.
The questions vary they can be given to a child, let's say starting ages 5 to 12.
Okay.
And the questions for the 5 to 12-year-olds are much simpler than the questions for those children over 12.
Okay.
But we anticipate, ideally, we'd love for this screening to occur every year, similar to vision and hearing screenings in schools.
Okay.
But it could also be used in a one-on-one situation. Like I said, if a student is coming to the office and the nurse can look at this screener and say, hey, this student has 2 out of 3. Maybe they need to see their healthcare provider. And we also have a paper that can go home with that student saying, your child may have migraine. Here are some tips and some things that you can do. This is what you should do when you go see your healthcare provider.
Okay, that was the next thing I was going to ask. Is the program wanting everyone to be screened or just kids that come into the office with headaches? So that is very interesting because my kids are just now getting their hearing and vision screened, and it's a very good point. This would be, if there really are 28% of adolescents that present with migraine, this would be a great way to get them in and get them diagnosed.
Exactly.
So another component of the Migraine at School program is a lesson plan that can be given as part of the health classes. So can you talk to us about that and what ages you plan to target with that?
Sure. So we had a subcommittee of educators that worked together and sort of laid out the bones of what they wanted the lesson plan to be and the goal of the lesson plan. And then we were really fortunate. One member of that committee, Missy Shadburn, worked one-on-one with myself to really flush out a full beginning to end lesson plan. It's meant to be during one class period, specifically targeted for middle school, high school students.
Okay.
In those health classes that, like, I think almost like across the country at this point, all of our kids have to take.
Right.
And the lesson plan is completely comprehensive. It has information on identifying the key differences between migraine and other headaches. It teaches kids what are some of the common triggers and how can those healthy lifestyle habits help with migraine. It also provides a broad understanding of the different treatments available, whether it's pharmaceutical devices. And then it allows the students to understand that there are other headache diseases beyond migraine, defining some of the more common ones like cluster and such. And again, we make it as easy as it can be for the teacher teaching these classes. You have that full lesson plan that includes activities. It comes with a PowerPoint, it comes with handouts, and it even has quizzes if you do need to provide some sort of assessment attached to
Oh, okay.
to the lesson.
And is part of the goal not only for the child who might have migraine and doesn't know, or is it only, excuse me, let me reword that. Is it only for the child who might have migraine and doesn't know, or is it also to help the other kids understand migraine in general?
It's for everybody. Like
for
100%.
Okay.
I mean, it's great. Like if you have a kid that's like, oh, I think that's me, but I also think it's really, really important for those other kids in the class to understand how common it is, what migraine is. Without question, you educate a school full of students on migraine and you destigmatize the disease.
Right.
And that ultimately is so important.
Right. I love that. Okay. So if there are parents or kids listening who would like to bring the Migraine at School program to their school, what should they do?
Sure. The easiest thing for them to do is to visit the website, migraineatschool.org. And as a parent, go under the parent tab. You can print the individual parent infographic, as well as students and educators. For educators, under the educator tab, and this is available for parents as well, they can order materials, whether they want them just for their school. They can also download a digital kit that includes all of the infographics. It includes the lesson plan. All of the resources are available under the educator tab. And then also join our newsletter, follow us on social media. Any way that you can be involved, and Amy will talk further about if you really want to take it that extra step, the extra mile, and really bring it to your community.
Okay.
Yeah. So as Elizabeth mentioned, if you are ultimately just so passionate about this cause, beyond getting what you need for your own kid, talking to your own school, we encourage people to become Migraine at School ambassadors. You know, the base level, being an ambassador is just someone who's super passionate and wants to advocate. What that means, though, is we are encouraging you to do grassroots outreach in your own community, whether that's talking to a school district, talking to your local school board, whoever it is that you can think to reach out to spread the program in your own community. We will help you do that. We have trainings for ambassadors. We have the trainings quarterly. We just had our January training.
Okay.
Our next training is April 20th, and we encourage anybody who is really interested in becoming an ambassador. You can go to the Migraine at School website, and under the About Us tab, there's a drop down that says become an ambassador, and you just fill out the form and we'll send you information about the training. Once you've gone through the training, we give you everything you need. We give you talking points, presentation slides, materials, and obviously we're just here for support and to help you through the process of beginning this outreach, because at the end of the day, it's about grassroots organization.
Okay. So I want to ask if there is an age, if you have to be a certain age to be an ambassador, because I have an 11-year-old daughter that I know really wants to do this and wants to help. Will kids be able to be ambassadors in their own schools, in their own communities?
Honestly, anybody who wants to be an advocate, I'm going to support somebody being an advocate. Okay. I think about my oldest, and she was in second grade, and she had her little folder, and it was all about UNICEF, and she set up a meeting with her principal, and it was super official. And then they ended up raising $4,000 or something.
Oh my goodness. UNICEF. That's amazing.
And UNICEF, who forever thought, just assumed she was an adult, because what child, but yeah, you plant the seed of advocacy young anyway, and the difference it makes in our community. So if you have a kiddo who's just super motivated, is ready to be out there, is ready to be advocating for not only themselves, but the other kids in their school,
right?
Get involved.
Or for their 100%. Brother or sister. In my family, she likes to advocate for her little brother.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. Is there anything that we left out? Is there anything else that you would like listeners to hear about the Migraine at School program before we go?
I would say visit the website, peruse it, and get involved. The
All
more
right.
people we have out there getting involved, the better it's going to be for the kids out there living with migraine. And given the incredible numbers of kids out there living with this disease, we need help.
Okay. And again, that's migraineatschool.org.
Mm-hmm.
And you also are on social media. So if they get on Facebook or Insta and look up Migraine at School,
all of it. And we
Okay.
made the handle as easy as we could possibly make it. It's just at Migraine at School. So like, it's really easy to find us.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, both of you, Amy and Elizabeth. And thank you to all our listeners for listening today. And please join us again next week on Heads Up, the weekly webcast and podcast of the National Headache Foundation.